One of my favourite memories is because my granda worked in the harbour in a lifeboat, and I was always kind of hanging about him.
My grandfather was a boatman.
Most of the men worked in the shipyards, but most of the women were knit braiders.
Previously, he'd worked in the shipyards as a wood machinist.
The company would drop the stuff at their home, and they did a hook in the back of their kitchen door, and they did knit braiding.
Again, he followed his father into the lifeboat service, and eventually he became the second coxswain. They had a bothy where the Silver Darlings now is. My mother worried because they would go out in terrible weather and you never really knew what was going on and where they were. I remember there was one terrible incident that happened at the mouth of the River Don where there were some young people, about 6 of them died. They were in canoes and it was really a very dangerous part. I mean, they had to go out and recover the bodies and that was quite distressing for them.
I think there's a good community feeling in the area. It's the activists who organise the annual Fittie bonfire. People come along and put the wood that they no longer need out to add to the bonfire. You do occasionally see the old chest of drawers that people add to the pile.
I've always loved beaches. I love everything about them. I love the sunshine, I love the storms, I love how the tide goes in and out every day and it changes every day. I actually love being right by the harbour and seeing like the big boats going in and out and people just working away, and there's a little bit of heritage there. It's the same architect that designed Balmoral Castle. When he designed the squares, he based the design on Italian or Venetian squares and piazzas in Italy, where The design of them is that people live on the outside of them and they have community on the inside. People, by design, are drawn out of their houses and into the outdoor green space. The concept of the squares being directly designed for community 200 years later, although it has a different community purpose, it still has that initial purpose. In Scotland, most traditional fishing villages are built in like little lanes that don't face the sea, so the wind blows up and the windows are all sheltered from the sea, and so this design is completely unique in terms of fishing communities, especially in Scotland. We live in a 200-year-old piazza, which is pretty cool.
There's a couple of women that I still see, but most people are what would have been called incomers.
People coming in were called incomers, and many incomers like myself still laugh and say you could live here 100 years and you'd still be an incomer.
I think when I first arrived here, I felt that we would maybe be excluded for a bit until people got to know us. And then very quickly I realised that was completely not true, because as soon as we got here, people made us feel really, really welcome and just, really wanted to get to know us.
The present day community in Fittie is very friendly and connected.
People are kind and very open-minded and make you feel at home.
For a city that's so special and interesting, that there is such a possibility to be connected to your neighbours, and not just your immediate side-by-side neighbours, but a whole network of streets.
That sounds really bad, but if you just want to get into your house and not bump into anyone, it's sometimes quite hard. So in some ways it's a bad thing, but also in some ways it's a great thing, because you're always there's always someone there to talk to.
I think the age of the people that are buying the houses, they're a lot younger, but now there's a lot of little craft workers are living there and selling their wares, from the houses as well.
I'd say it's quite like an artistic community. And you can tell there's lots of people here inspired by living by the sea, and I think that's very beautiful as well.
If you look out here, there's the drying greens at the back of the houses. The washing lines always should go west to east, because that didn't restrict your view. But if you went from north to south, then that blocked off the view of the sea. It used to be that the poles were there, but you would put out your line when you were putting out your washing, and then you would take your washing in and you would take your line down. When people put the line out and left it, that was not right. Or when they put their washing out on the Sabbath, that wasn't right. But the biggest offence was to put your washing north to south, because that blocked the view.
The best thing about growing up in Fittie was really the freedom. We had the whole beach to play on. That was just part of our upbringing.
And it was a great place to grow up.
What was great was that they could go out on their bikes and pedal around, and if they fell off, there would always be Mrs. Jessie, somebody or other would know who they were. And so it was like you had the whole of the curtain twitching community were watching out for the children in the village.
And I think that's one of the biggest things about Fittie, is that it's living in a village but you're still in the city.
We would play kick the tinny, kick the can, or we used to get up to some mischief, we used to call it rappy, where you'd go and rap on someone's door and then run away behind the shed. It was really, a very great place to grow up. It really was.
And obviously I spent a lot of time on the beach. I used to love riding my bike around a bit more chopper, round about the squares. Not the grandest chopper.
As a place for growing up for kids, it was great.
Everybody looked after everybody else and made sure that everybody's right, and it was very, very happy days for me. I would like to think that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren will be coming up in a cleaner world.
I think we're in a time of change, and I think there's no denying that people's actions now will inform the next 20, 50, 100 years.
The people will still find employment in the oil and gas industry, but it will be harder and harder for them to hire more staff, because who wants to be in an industry that is characterised as the baddies who are polluting the world.
I really believe that if people are connected to nature, then they're more likely to look after it.
Oil and gas employs a lot of people, but it would be nice to think of a clean way of providing the same energy.
I think that we have a responsibility to act with intention. Yeah, I think there's obviously bold decisions that have to be made in some regards, and I think that's from a community level, but also in a government level as well. And I think in terms of the community, I think we all have to kind of work together to ensure that we have a good future.